Warning: the following program is extremely janky. Viewer discretion is advised.
Behind that.
Oh
That's
my
why
God.
people. That's people.
I have to interrupt you for a second.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
You're gonna be really mad at me.
I am going to.
The cameras are not recording.
Neither of them are.
Neither of the cameras are recording.
Holy fuck!
Let me just go turn those on.
To make any kind of sense of it, I need to go back 26 minutes. Back to the moment that Jank started.
Pseudo related to another story we told before. Remember how there was that article I read you about people changing their name to Subway
Yes.
to get free Subway? So we have another corporate dystopia related topic to this. In fact, why don't I just read you the headline? It's pretty funny.
I think I need a sip of my coffee.
Go for it, yeah. If you ain't woke up from this, you will be.
Yeah, you're right. I should probably be popping an Ambien for this one, eh?
So here's the headline. Austria offers free rail travel for a year if you get a tattoo. So the idea is...
Wait, did you say Austria or...
Austria, not Australia.
Okay,
Austria.
just making sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So what, like an SS tattoo or what? Fuck.
No, no. That would be more of a headline, I'm sure, but no, it is it's a tattoo of the rail card logo. Like they have a rail card that you buy to get on
Well, you know who made the trains run on time, right? This isn't looking
careful,
good there.
Careful where
You know what?
we want to monetize one day.
Well, I'm standing against Nazism. Let's let me be clear about
Yeah,
this.
and no one was
Anyways, I'll quit it.
surprised to hear that, as it should be. So I'll read you this little snippet from the headline. From the article. Austria's climate minister endorsed a campaign to give people a year's free public transport. A year, not for life. A year. A year's free public transport if they got the rail card logo tattooed on their body. So like the year ticket is like 1,000 euros. So it's like the article makes the comparison that it's like they say it's about 1,080 American dollars. Is that right? Is that a right accurate conversion?
Yeah,
Are they
yeah,
that close right now?
Yeah, oh yeah, the US dollar has been... We were talking about this the other episode there where the US dollar is at its like strongest point with respect to global currencies in the last 20 years.
That's right. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they say that it translates to about 1,080 American dollars or 2 to 5 laser tattoo removal treatments. Which I thought that was a pretty funny thing. It's like at least the Subway thing was it free subs for life, wasn't it? Like wasn't it like a sub a day for the rest of your life or something like that?
I think I'd
This
get
is
through about $1,800 worth of fucking submarine sandwiches. That'd be enough subs for life right there, buddy.
Meanwhile, this is like a year of transport, and then you just have a rail logo tattooed on your body for the rest of your life. Also, they could just change their logo in like 3 years. Like that's pretty common. Like our transit logos changed quite a bit over my life. I think I've seen maybe 3 different logos in my lifetime for like our local transit stuff. So it's like, this seems way worse. This seems like a way worse exchange.
Well, and I mean, yeah, no, it's fucking ridiculous. Well, and it's not even like a Euro card or something. Like, okay, I can take the train from fucking Vienna to I don't even know any other cities in Austria. I'm not gonna lie. Austria is a highly forgettable country in my eyes.
Austria L.
Austria big L. Well, no, I mean like Austria. Yeah, don't get me started on the Austrians. The Austrians they've been neutral since World War II. So they are basically major obstructionists with respect to Ukraine aid. They don't send any aid to Ukraine as far as I'm aware. The FPO, I couldn't tell you what that stands for in German, but that was the ruling party for some time recently. And they're fucking goofy. Like they're just goofy. They're just goofy. I'm just not about them. No, I'm not about them. Actually, Vienna would be a beautiful city though. I've always wanted to go to Vienna. Vienna is a fucking world-class city.
What's the landmark? What's some kind of landmark in Vienna? Like isn't there some important like cathedrals or some shit in there?
I'm sure that there's many. Vienna itself is a landmark, you know what I mean? But it's funny that I'm saying, I've always wanted to go to Vienna. I can't think of a single fucking landmark there. Sorry, bud.
It's probably nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a world-class city, right? Surrounded by a fucking shithole country. But anyways,
It's coming out strong. Let's go.
come on. You know what? Who's going to get offended about me going after the Austrians? Like, come on.
We might have some. Yeah, no.
No, fuck them. They're like they're an easy target, right? Like there's no.
Oh, jeez.
You know what? Austria is in German, which is obviously the native language of Austria.
Right? Yeah. What is it?
Is Österreich.
Pardon?
Oster, which means I believe east.
Okay.
Reich, which is like the Third Reich. It means like ruler, or like it just means like I don't know what the fuck. You know what? Let's not get lost on this. I got the German English dictionary over there that I never look at, and I don't intend to look at anytime soon. So
okay, fair enough.
But yeah. Don't get a fucking tattoo of a rail card on you
for a year's worth of. I wouldn't do it. I don't think I'd do it for lifetime transit.
Actually, you know what? As a sort of sick form of justice, I think every Austrian citizen should be forced to get a tattoo.
Not careful.
Right, right there, buddy. Right there.
We can't.
Yeah, we'll be cutting a lot of this.
There's no way we can keep that. Well, if you're wondering why we're laughing right now, we didn't keep it in. You're as well. You're never gonna hear about that one. Jesus. Anyway.
I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
Come on, you can't bring up Austria and think I'm not
Yeah,
just gonna go
you're
off.
right.
You should have been like, oh, you know what? This might be one where Kramer's gonna be like, Austria? I'll tell you about Austria, buddy. Sorry.
Holy crap. All right. Well,
On that note, let's move on to something a little lighter. So the AI apocalypse.
yeah. Nice, gentle topic. Just hanging out with my bud, chatting about fucking AI sludge dog shit again. Love it. What do you got for me?
I thought you wanted to start us off.
I got some stuff. I got
you
some
know
stuff.
what? You lead us into this, and
So-
I'll just give the color commentary over here.
You're a big Fallout guy, right? You played a lot of Fallout. You
yes.
you love you some Fallout games. There's
Oh,
an
fucking
Amazon
right.
show that's being made for Fallout. It's a Fallout live action TV show. And they released some marketing material, and it's like an image of like the Vault Boy giving the good old thumbs up, and he's in front of this backdrop that looks like a very, Fallout style kind of utopian 40s type 50s type deal. But there's some
that idyllic sort of world that I was kind of alluding to was kind of dreamt up by 1980s ad exec high on Quaaludes. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, definitely very real thing that happened. That was everybody was a part of, and totally not manufactured.
There was definitely no groups of people who were unsatisfied during the 50s.
But there was some jank to this picture, and it's our favorite kind of jank. It's AI generated jank because, as it turns out, it's very likely that this backdrop was an AI generated image. So there's a lot of tips. There's a lot of tip offs in the picture. There's one thing that you can that can help you kind of identify an AI generated image. It used to be there's the whole meme about like lol 11 fingers lol, like count the fingers in the hand or whatever. Not only is that becoming less of a deal as the models get better, but also it's not even necessarily the best way to find out if something is AI generated or not. A really common way is to kind of look at what the image actually is and critically analyze it, like what's happening in the image. Because a person will create an image with intent. They'll create an image of a forest or a city or some kind of backdrop, and everything in the image is intentionally created to look a certain way. Whereas an AI model is an approximation of what those types of pictures look like. So the model is not going to be making decisions about where to put certain things. It's not really how it works, right? So for example, in this picture, there's like a 20-foot wide sidewalk or like a 10-foot wide sidewalk with like lanes of traffic right beside it, which is like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, why is that there? Or there's like cars that are driving in one direction, and then there's one of the cars is facing the wrong way. And it's like interspersed with all the cars facing the other direction. Or there's, the buildings have no windows, or one of the buildings has a tree growing out of the top. One of the, there's a woman who's walking and she's got 3 legs for some reason. And she's like carrying a bag, but it's like an optical illusion. You can't tell which way she's holding it. there's so much jank shit with this picture, right? That it's like you look at it and it's like this is AI generated. It's got to be, and it's just like it's so cringe. I can't think of a better word than just cringe. It's cringe. It's like Fallout deserves better. I know that's like an equally cringy thing to say, but it's like you couldn't have just had somebody just make something. Like you had to, like, come on. How much money did you actually save doing
Well, not
this?
just make something, but like do a little bit of post.
Yeah, it's
like
shit,
I just looked
man.
this up. 1.37 trillion. That's the market capitalization for Amazon. 1.37 trillion. So its market capitalization is larger than probably 90% of the economies on the planet. And they couldn't get somebody to look at the image and go, oh, I'm just going to put this into Photoshop for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 fucking minutes. Maybe get a couple other AI generated images that I put prompts in and then graph them in. Like, like that's the thing is like what I was saying before, I think on the last episode, I was saying, you know, with this kind of content, you could utilize this as a tool, as part of a toolkit as a designer to make cool stuff.
Mhm.
Like you could definitely integrate. I could see having access to Midjourney, I think is the big image generator, having access to Midjourney and then taking it and going, okay, now I've taken this image, which maybe is a part of a larger composition, and I can edit it a little bit and be like, oh, okay, this is something cool now, right? Save a little bit of time, get some stuff you wouldn't normally create yourself. Sure. As part of a larger process being directed by a person.
Mhm.
What we keep seeing time and time again is it's just like, oh, we just get the AI to do it all. And we just plan it on there, though. No fucking thought about it. And no one's even looking at it being like, oh, we made fucking marketing material with a 3-legged woman. Like, give me a fucking break.
And a
dude.
backwards car and a tree growing out of the top of a skyscraper. Like, it's just, and it's not even like, it's literally like the tree is like grafted into the side of the fucking wall of the sky. It's so jank. It's like
Hyper jank.
It's hyper jank, dude.
Yeah.
It is complete abuse of rule number 2. They
Yes.
embraced too much jank.
Remind
Whatever it
us,
is.
rule number 2.
Rule number 2, embrace the jank. That is
Mm.
the second rule of the Citation Needed.
You know what I
podcast.
thought you were talking about? Like, remember there's the internet rules where it's like rule 32, everything. Yeah.
34, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was what I forgot. I forgot we had rules to this.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't realize we were making a reference. This was a self-referential statement.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those things where it's like if somebody had just spent like a couple minutes thinking about this before putting it out, you might be thinking, okay, well, the average person might not notice. It's like, okay, that might be true, but the average person is going to notice when the not average person writes
Points
a
it
news
out.
article about it and says it's AI generated bullshit. Like, it's just so thoughtless. Like you said, this is to say nothing of all the ethical considerations and the copyrighted content being in the training model, all that kind of crazy shit. But which we've talked about many times before and we will talk about again. But like, even if you just had somebody look at it a little bit for like a little bit of time afterwards, be like, okay, yeah, this is a 3-legged woman on a sidewalk. This is a backwards car in traffic. Like,
This is the problem is that firstly, again, people do not understand what these things are, and they imagine you used an interesting term, intent. Human actors say when they're creating a piece of art, have intent for the things that they put into that piece of art.
mhm.
When a human writes a legal brief, they are writing with intent. Now, it's not that we can't produce passable products through AI potentially, but by definition, there is no intent. People really need to internalize this. Basically, to put it simply, an algorithm cannot have intent in the same way it doesn't learn. It's not engaged in a cognitive process.
It's not thinking. It doesn't have experience. It's a machine.
It's a machine. It does not engage in cognition whatsoever. It
Mhm.
engages in an approximation of cognition.
Yeah.
And this just seems people who claim to be area experts on the matter are perhaps the biggest, committers of this fundamental failure in thought in just going, oh yeah, like it's a learning process. Like, remember I sent you that Twitter quote where it was like these guys were like, oh, these guys don't understand. It was in regards to copyright material and whether or not AI is theft. And these guys, and I was like, holy fuck, my brain just broke. Because these guys were on Twitter and these guys were like claiming to be area experts who talk about AI all the time. They're saying, these people obviously don't understand how this works. This isn't rehashing a bunch of stuff. It's learning from it. What was it that they used the term learning? And then there was another
experience.
thing. Experience.
That was the other one.
Right? So these phrases.
I got triggered as hell off that tweet, dude. When
Yeah.
you sent me that, I was like,
it's like, It's like, okay, so this guy who's an area expert who's defending AI believes that AI learns and experiences.
I think it was like 2 p.m. on a Friday before my like long vacation, and
it ruined the entire vacation.
I was just like, this fucked me. I'm so mad.
It's worse than like getting a Live Leak video sent to you.
Oh my
it's
god,
like,
yeah. It's just so it's a blatant misrepresentation of what the words mean. And I guess it's like the words can mean something different to different people, but it's like when you're talking about something like this, it's important to be clear.
Well, the problem is these people don't understand. They're not neurologists. They're not evolutionary neurobiologists.
Yeah, ethicists.
They're not ethicists. They're not psychologists. They're certainly not epistemologists. They're not philosophers who are asking the question, what is cognition? What is the nature of the mind? They go, oh, this does stuff that looks like stuff that's produced by a mind. Ergo, it is a mind.
Yeah.
And then they go, we know about this because I know code. Like this is not a question of this is hardly even a tech question at that point.
Yeah.
It's actually a fundamental question that cannot just be answered, and it requires so much human hubris to just go, oh yeah, like I can just flatten all of these different sort of considerations that need to be made.
What was the joke you made last time? Linkin Park PhD?
Yeah.
That's going to stick with me, that one.
I mean, at least in that case, like those guys are like, well, they're trying to sort of retcon an excuse why it's not a big deal that they did this thoughtless thing, and they have a direct financial reason. Not that that's a good reason to be like.
It's a less bad reason.
It's a less bad reason than just to be like motivated by just pure hubris of like I don't think Linkin Park really believes that it answered those questions. It's just going to claim that those questions are answered because they don't want legal liability. But these guys that are on Twitter just being like, oh, people are they're just stupid. They don't know that ChatGPT learns and experiences just like a human
just
would.
like us.
No.
It's like one of these things that triggers me sometimes, which probably shouldn't, but it's like there's this subreddit called, I think it's called Just Like Us. And it's like animals doing things that people are like, oh, see, they're like us. They're like us. They it's like a raccoon picking up garbage and putting it in a garbage can or some shit, or like an animal does something and it's like, I see the humanity in the animal. It's like, and sometimes it's like a little bit, it's like, okay, this is a poetic moment. This is like this is your connection to the natural world around you. And sometimes it's like, no, fucking raccoons aren't people, you dumb piece of
you're being
shit.
a lot
like,
more charitable than I would. I think that's always pretty stupid.
But if it's like, oh, like this mother, like I have, okay, I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here. This is a rare one for me. I had an emotional moment when I was a teenager, late teenagers. Like I was like 19, I think. And my life was it was in disarray. There was a lot of shit happening in my life where it wasn't nearly as put together as it is.
You were 19.
Today. Yeah, exactly. I was out for a walk or something, and it was in the middle of the night, and I was just really emotional. I was having this really tough time. And I was like sitting next to the river, just like hanging out, being like, fuck, I'm so depressed, man. Like this, I don't know what to do. And I had this really weird experience where I saw like it was like a goose or a duck or something with some ducklings. And it was like swimming through the river, like near the shore. And I saw it started to kind of drift away from the ducklings a little bit. And I'm just sitting here observing this weird thing happening. And I saw like a ripple in the water a short distance away from them, and it was a snake. And there was a snake like coming up from the shore or I can't remember. In some way it was coming up to the ducklings. And it was a really weird moment in me where I was like, I almost felt like I had to get up and like do something. It was so weird. It's like I was like, do I throw a rock at this snake? What do I do? And then like as it was getting closer, the mother duckling like turned around and like swam towards the ducks or whatever, and the snake like went away. And for some reason, I don't know if I was just like, my brain was just janked out on depression or some shit, but it just hit me so hard. It was such an emotional thing to just witness in nature. And I was just like, it was so poetic and deep in that moment. Talking about it now, it's just some random shit that happened in a fucking river. If I posted that on Reddit, like you'd be memeing on me right now. Yeah. Like, but
I'm withholding my memeing on you right as we sit here.
This moment. Yeah, exactly. God, you know, if you got to get out of your system, you can. You
Well,
already-
no, you know what? You brought up, it brings up something that I find interesting, and it relates back to the AI stuff too, is, you know, we talk about, you opened that story with talking about how, you know, just like us, we see in nature ourselves, right?
Mm.
And that's a very, like, human thing. Like, that's sort of the origins of our beliefs about the world are rooted originally in those sorts of animistic sort of, there's spirits of the rocks and spirits of the trees, and you know, it's sort of part of the developmental pattern of human belief about the world is related to that. And I think that that's common where we see something and we must imagine there must be some cognition behind that.
Oh
That's
my
why
God.
people, that's
I
people.
have to interrupt you for a second. You're going to be really mad at me.
I am going to.
The cameras are not recording.
Neither of them are?
Neither of the cameras are recording.
Holy fuck.
Let me just go turn those on.
Oy, 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 oy. How are they? Oy, 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 oy.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so just tell me what the time code.
Uh-oh.
We're at what on the
48.
timer?
48.
48. 45, I'll say.
Uh-oh.
Cameras go on. Okay, so we'll figure out how we fix that issue. And
Uh-oh.
that's quite okay. It's quite okay, whatever.
Sorry.
Did I do that?
Did I do that? Well,
Well,
that's
that tells us we got to get our fucking Apple Music shit going so that we have an audio only format that, you know, there'll be some listeners that just won't even be affected by that.
no, we'll just AI generate some video feeds of us
Oh.
and it'll look totally normal and fine.
And we won't even look at it. We won't even review it. We'll just post
Yeah,
it.
we'll
It'll
just
be
post it and it'll just
me
work.
with 3 heads being like, AI is so fucking jank.
It'll just work. It'll
Holy
just
fuck.
work.
Now, you know what? I'm a forgiving guy. So I kind of feel like this poses a pretty serious hamper on how I'm going to integrate that. Also, I feel like let's get started back again on. Let's start from somewhere here. Let's get it. Let's have a starting point here.
I mean, we're only what, 26 minutes in?
Yeah, we're only halfway through.
That's fine. People, man, just put some just put some pictures of
Yeah,
us.
I don't know. Like,
oh, jeez.
yeah, no. I think that might be one of those false start things. I think that might be.
No. We'll keep it. We'll just put some jank fucking. I'll help. We'll put some. We gotta keep it. It was 26 minutes of pretty good talk. Pretty good. Content.
But you know what? It just shows us but we can always create more.
What about rule number 2? Please, you look like you're about to reach over the table.
No, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I just
No?
recognize the serious unusability of those moments. Unfortunately, I think I'm just a little more realistic. I just think we need to go a little longer now, and that's
Okay, yeah.
I'm quite comfortable with that.
Sure,
frankly.
yeah, we might not.
And we might want to kind of double back to what we were talking about before, like find a way to kind of start back into it.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Welcome for the first time. Definitely not 26 minutes in. Hello, hi. This is a completely natural event. We are starting now. Aaron, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I mean, I definitely am just sitting here now for the first time. I wasn't sitting here talking to cameras that weren't on for 26 minutes. That never happened.
No, that didn't happen
No,
at
it never
all.
happened at all.
Oh my fucking God. I have no idea how we're going to make this work.
Do you want to start back on a topic we had been talking about before, or should we just go into the next thing? Here?
Let's go to the next thing. I'll let our post-production team of 10 people who are very
9 of whom do not exist.
and the 10th one has no salary.
There's no salary and is sitting here steaming like a fucking. No, let's.
What do you got for me?
So I'm gonna get into this then. Okay, well, there's a couple of things. Firstly, obviously, we got to talk about everybody's favorite Russian mercenary was blown up in the middle of the sky over Tver Oblast.
Ripperoni.
Evgeny Prigozhin, who nobody should miss. But you know, it's an open. Well, it's not really an open question. It's a supposedly open question as to what happened. It's pretty clear that he was killed by Putin. Him, a guy named Utkin, I can't remember his first name, but he's like the second in command at Wagner, who's a neo-Nazi. He had like SS tattoos and stuff. He also got, blown up in the blast. So
Nothing of value was lost.
Rip Bozo, right?
Rip Bozo.
But there were like, for example, there was a flight crew that was murdered in the process, right? And that's demonstrates the evil of Putin, that he would just, doesn't care, just murder his own citizens, to fight an internal battle. But yeah, so I don't want to get too stuck on the whole Prigozhin thing. So I just wanted to talk about it maybe just briefly here. I think that it's actually indicative of, there's a couple of things. Firstly, it shows the impossibility of having a negotiated settlement with the Putin regime, right? Because they had a negotiated settlement about a month ago where it's like, oh, okay, Prigozhin had amnesty. And then a month later, and it was, brokered by Lukashenko of Belarus, right? And then, a month later, he gets blown up in the middle of the sky. Of course, Putin's saying, we got to wait until the investigation is over to see, what happened. And we don't know what happened. And it's all bullshit. It's all a fucking cover up. But I think another thing that also indicates, not only that, the supposed peaceniks argument that Ukraine should just be, made to negotiate an end to this is a completely nonsensical, farcical thing, because there are no negotiations to be had with this regime that they will honor, right? We negotiated with the Russians in 1994 at the Budapest Memorandum, where they promised to recognize Ukraine's 1991 boundaries. How did that go, right? So, but the other thing is, and the hopeful note of this is, I think one of the reasons that this might have happened now is that the Russians are experiencing serious difficulties on the front in Zaporizhia Oblast. The Ukrainians just took a town called Robotyne. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they're marching on another city, Novoprokopivka, which is closer to the right pronunciation. I did a pretty good job there, actually.
I mean, I'm fucked if I know.
But they're approaching what's called the Surovikin line, which is named after a general who's under house arrest in Russia right now for participating in coup d'etat again. And yeah, so I think that the front is about to break open. And so one of the reasons that Prigozhin had to die in Putin's eyes is because his political prestige was going to be, Putin's political prestige is on the verge of being further tarnished, and ergo Prigozhin's star would only rise in the condition of failures on the front. So take him out preemptively, then he can figure out there's no hardliners on his right that he has to worry about dealing with. Not in the same way, right? Because, Igor Girkin, he's in a pickle. He's in prison, right?
Fucking pickle. You can't not make the joke.
Yeah. So hopefully there's been a lot of things going on the front. I don't know if you saw there was a Russian helicopter pilot that defected with a multi-million-dollar Russian attack helicopter filled with jet parts that was supposed to be going between two air bases in Russia that just flew over to Ukraine. And defected.
Damn.
There was a number of S-400 systems, like potentially hundreds of millions of dollars worth of anti-air material, Russian anti-air material, have been destroyed, including deep in Crimea by a Ukrainian special forces group that went and got to Crimea by boat, destroyed an S-400 system, killed like 30 Russian soldiers, destroyed numerous boats, and then got back to Ukraine, mainland Ukraine, with no casualties.
Jesus.
So, the Russians they're being pushed on all places, and it's looking like there's going to be a breakthrough, but I don't want to say too much more on that matter. But yeah, Prigozhin's dead. We shouldn't miss him. But the question becomes, what does this say about the political context in Russia? Why did Putin do this now? Right? And I really do think because he knows they're in trouble, and he needed to basically neuter the hardline element within his own state.
And now, a word from one of our many sponsors.
Hi, I'm Stephen Charles.
And I'm Alistair Montague III.
And when we're not at kayaking practice,
summering at our country homes in the Berkshires,
or interning at our parents' law firms,
we follow our passion, and our passion is managing other people's money.
And that's why we founded GFY Trading. GFY Trading is the only crypto exchange you can trust to manage your finances with panache.
Just listen to these testimonials from proud GFY customers.
I keep my racist dog NFTs on GFY because I know they're safe in the hands of 2 white male Harvard legacy admissions.
I put all my savings into Poopy Diaper Coin last year using GFY, and I haven't looked back because I'm scared to. GFY doesn't slow my trading down with transparency or regulations. They just let me get right into the trading action. All I needed was a wallet. My wallet. It's definitely my wallet. So if you want to experience the absolute best that the crypto industry has to offer, join GFY. We aren't going anywhere. We're bankrupt. We're bankrupt. Man, I gotta call my dad, dude.
Other than that, on the domestic politics front, there's the Georgia mugshots.
That's true. Yeah. You see, I feel like I saw him tweet his own mugshot, which is like, what a wild world to live in.
Well, he obviously spent a lot of time looking in the mirror. I've got to say I think he looks pathetic no matter how you take a picture of him. But you could tell that, it's a pretty well thought out process.
It was rehearsed.
Yeah, a narcissist is good at posing for certain, if anything, right?
Sky blue, water wet.
Yeah.
Headlines today.
A lot of people mentioned that he had the Stanley Kubrick stare, where apparently Stanley Kubrick does this thing where he has the main character look towards the camera with their head tilted forward, and it demonstrates the height of their derangement, right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
So he had Jack Nicholson do that in
Shining.
The Shining. He had the main character in the one with he's got the funny makeup and they drink milk.
Clockwork Orange.
And a number of examples.
Yeah,
actually,
no, you're right. That's valid.
I'm gonna show you my favorite mugshot, which we'll also put on the screen, but I want to get your live reaction for this.
Okay,
So
all right.
I'm just gonna quickly find it here.
Wouldn't it be funny if the cameras were still not recording?
Yeah, funny would be a word for it. For sure. So this woman's name,
My honest reaction. It's just no
apparently
camera.
she's a celebrity stylist. Her name is Trevion Cootie. And she was one of the people who was harassing, I can't remember her name, but she was this election worker who was, her and her daughter were just being attacked by these people. I'm just going to show you the image. This is her Kubrick stare.
Oh my fucking god!
So what do you think about the mental state of somebody who looks like that?
I'm gonna break this damn thing. This is a new phone. I'm gonna smash it in fear.
Yeah.
What the hell am I looking at?
Exactly. It's an abomination, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a whole cast of characters.
What crime did this person commit? Mass homicide?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
She committed a crime just having that picture taken, right?
yeah,
That was a crime.
True. Yeah.
Okay. There was
Jeez.
another guy, what was his name? Harrison Floyd. He was the only one who was remanded. He was not given bail. I don't know if he's out on bail yet. I heard that he body slammed one of the people who like served him. Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, he straight up did. There's another guy actually who body slammed a long time, not in this context, but there was a Republican politician from Montana. What the hell was his name? Gianforte or some shit like that?
Okay, I just want to say, how do you body slam someone? Like, what situation do you have to be in to be able to body slam them? That's a very specific. Like, did you give him the walls of Jericho? Like, what do you mean? Like, did you like suplex? I can understand, right? Because you get a grip on somebody, you just fucking flip them. But like body slam, like you knock them down and you like, what does that mean?
I think body slam in this context is kind of, I don't know if it's a term of art or is just a generalized term to mean like take someone and flip them over your own body onto the ground. That's what I imagine. It's kind of like sort of like a judo or jujitsu kind of like,
I'm imagining like Kane on the top rope, just like jumping off, or What's a more relatable? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
watch
I think
a
the
lot of
body
wrestling.
slam here. Yeah, you're imagining a body slam as in they're slamming their body into another person.
Yeah, I'm in my.
which I'm allowing to play out in my head because that's fucking hilarious.
I'm literally hearing in my head like, "Watch out! Watch out! Watch out!" Like the wrestling commentator.
Yeah, this is some fucking Nacho Libre looking fucking horse shit going. No, I think it just means like flipping a guy onto his back.
Sure.
or
Yeah.
something.
Okay. Yeah. That's
I think
that's
that's
less
what they mean.
entertaining, but yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean it's just as criminal.
I mean, yeah. It's just and it's just as cringe too.
yeah. There was Jenna Ellis, who was a lawyer, who took her mugshot was her just with this big smile, this big shit eater grin,
God,
like
okay.
she's like, I'm not in trouble. I'm this cute white girl. I can't go to prison. Giuliani, that was quite. I was happy to see him.
God.
He's a real.
I can't even imagine what his mugshot looks
Well,
like.
and Giuliani, he's not even getting Trump stiffed him on the because he didn't win any of the court cases on the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
that's
Trump
right.
stiffed him. So this guy can't even pay for his lawyers in the case. Giuliani's is in like serious trouble. And remember, this is a RICO charge. I don't know if you know what a RICO charge is, but basically it's a racketeering conspiracy charge. I think RICO charges sort of came into prominence in the 70s and 80s to fight the mob, right? And Rudy Giuliani famously, before he became a mayor of New York, he was a prosecutor.
Oh, he was a racketeering lawyer, prosecutor.
Yeah, he prosecuted a bunch of
Fucking
mobsters
A.
on RICO charges, and now he's being taken down, among other things, on a RICO charge. So it's definitely sort of this very tragic sort of poetic justice. I would say tragic comedy, but yeah. So I mean, that's what's going on in Trump world.
Holy shit.
One of the people had their trial expedited. So they're the first trial, and in Georgia law says these trials will be televised. So that's an important thing to remember.
Content. Let's go.
Content.
Here comes the content.
And it's starting in October. This
Oh,
October,
nice little
buddy.
birthday gift.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes,
Ooh,
exactly.
thank you.
Your birthday is in October?
It is.
Mine
yeah.
is too. How did I not know your birthday was October?
I didn't know yours was.
Oh, there you go.
Are we? I guess maybe we're not as close as friends as we
We're
thought
the
we were.
best two friends that anyone could have. So,
Well, my birthday's my wedding anniversary too.
yeah, I don't know that either, buddy.
Oh, okay.
But I
wow.
guess it's useful
No,
for
'cause
you
remember
because
I
you'll
made-
never forget your wedding anniversary.
Yeah, well, I remember I made a point of we made
Yes.
a point of doing it. We had the opportunity to do it the day before my birthday. It was a Saturday, and we were just kind of like, why don't we just do it the next day? Like it'll be on a Sunday, it'll be chill, because when one of the things we were thinking was like we don't want people to just fucking get drunk, right? Like we want it to be just a nice chill. We're not gonna have a sit down dinner. We're just gonna have hors d'oeuvres and stuff like. And it just worked out. It just was on my birthday. So now it's like, yeah, my birthday's our anniversary. It's awesome. It's one less date to forget. Notice that I say one less date to forget, not one less date to remember. I'm just setting expectations.
I like the idea that it's like, oh, it's Sunday, so we don't gotta feed our guests. Okay, I mean, I'm with it. I'm a cheap motherfucker, so I'm with you on that. I also kind of got this feeling like it's like, oh, it's on my birthday, so we can kind of cheap out. It's like, man, what were your birthdays like growing up, buddy? That's the first thing you jump to. We don't gotta have like a nice sit down meal. Just my birthday.
Yeah, it's not a big.
I'm nothing. I'm trash. Right? Like, okay, I mean,
What's special about today? Yeah.
my aunt's birthday is on Boxing Day, and she'd always mention that like having her birthday right adjacent to Christmas fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Because like it just gets kind of like floated right over, right? So I kind of feel like you're gonna be
your friends are all busy.
Yeah, well, even your family are like, happy birthday. Like we're all hungover from Christmas. Like Christmas was your birthday. Like your whole birthday just kind of gets washed in with it,
Yeah.
right? Like, whose birthday is more important, yours or Jesus's?
So I was
right?
just gonna say.
So yeah, no, that's fucking bullshit, right? But at the same time, like you said, it's very useful for you. You will never have the classic sort of stereotypical husband forgets the wedding anniversary problem, right? So very thinking forward on that one.
Yeah,
Thinking
well,
for-
someone I don't want to say who, just in case it's not information that I should share publicly, but someone very close to me's birthday is September 11th,
holy,
and so I always say, I'll never forget.
Oh.
That anyway.
Where were you on September 11th? You remember that song?
I don't at all.
Yeah, they
Not
made
even
a
a little bit.
I actually only know the song because South Park does this thing. Do you remember they make a ladder to heaven and like
Okay,
so that they can go
vaguely.
and everyone's like, "Oh, they're trying to visit their buddy Kenny. They're so nice." But really Kenny had like the winning ticket for like free candy from a year from like the candy factory, whatever fucking candy shop it was called. And so they're trying to get the ticket back from him. So they're making a ladder to heaven and everyone's like, "Oh, this is so amazing." So people are like making, pilgrimages to their fucking ladder that they're making. And the guy that made that song makes the song where were you when they built a ladder to heaven? And then I think Japan was like, no, we're going to make a ladder first, right? Because it was like, I guess at that point, this was before China became the thing that Americans were anxious about being overtaken by. They were always worried that Japan was taking, all of our electronics are made in Japan, blah, 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 which turned out to be a big nothing burger because the Japanese economy stagnated for about 25 years. Right at the moment, America started getting worried about it. So, but that's neither here nor there. Let's go. You had a couple things you wanted to talk about, going back to the AI stuff. So I want you to kind of talk. You were talking about Sam Altman had a little bit of a project.
Oh, yes. Friend of the show? Not quite. Not quite. Sam Altman, CEO, creator, I don't know what his title is, head honcho at OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT.
Lead snake oil salesman.
Yes, exactly. Head charlatan. He's got another venture called WorldCoin. I don't think we've talked about this. This has been around for a while now. It's this cryptocurrency, surprise, it ends in coin, that is basically, oh God, I can't even think of a way to describe it charitably. The claimed intent of this coin is to be able to separate humans from robots. Not robots in the, traditional, like, what's the dog's name, the robot dog that the MIT has or the military or some shit, I don't know. Anyway, think more like bots on Reddit kind of thing, right? The claimed intent of this is that everybody kind of gets some identifier based on a physical characteristic that proves that they are a human, because they can present this kind of code that can apparently only be produced from a real human biometric. So they have this thing, it's kind of funny. It's called an orb. And it's like this, it's very 2001 Space Odyssey type shit. It's like a like a metallic shiny orb that you like put up against your eye, and it like takes a scan of your iris. And from that scan, it produces like a code based on the real data points of the infrared scan or whatever type of scan it is of your iris. Because apparently, this part I think actually is legit. Apparently, the human iris is more uniquely identifiable than fingerprints are.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. There's a lot of the closer you kind of zoom into a picture of a human iris, you can see kind of all the different striations and like the little dots of pigmentation, and so that makes sense that would be the case.
So now instead of burning off fingerprints, criminals are gonna like burn their own eyes out.
Yeah, or like tattooed.
You can't identify me now.
Yeah, galaxy brain.
Oh shit! Where'd I put all that shit I stole? Fuck! Should have put an air tag on it or something, so I can at least like have it chirp when I fucking press a button, right?
Yeah, you're just walking around your house going, trying to echolocate all your stolen shit. Yeah, so anyways, they got
So
this.
speaking of stolen shit, back to cryptocurrency.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, based. They got this iris, this orb thing, and they were basically saying that you can scan your iris and give them your biometric data for your iris, and they give you this code that represents your world ID, I think it's called. And they give you some world coin, and it's like at the time of they were doing it, that it was like converted to like $50 USD. It's not worth $50 USD. This is a very important distinction. Anyone unfamiliar with crypto, worth is a very weird word. It's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. It's not like like currency, like state, like fiat currency, where it's like you can go buy a sandwich. It's like it's only worth what it's trading for, basically. Anyway, so it was worth, quote unquote, 50, 60 bucks American. And so they were going to like these like third world countries, or like I guess second world countries.
Oh yeah.
And literally, yeah, like people are lining up in the hundreds to like scan their eye, give their biometric data, and like get some fucking crypto, and then immediately sell the crypto for some like real
for food,
real
for
currency,
bags
for
of rice and shit.
Yeah. And so
that's disgusting.
It's-
That's so fucking predatory. It's insane.
I'm-
You're basically saying we're farming people's most sensitive information possible in order so we can create a directory. I don't know what they're doing with this. I don't like it. I mean, these are the guys that are engaging. I mean, now, like, let's just be clear. They used to be scraping pages on the internet. Now they're scraping people's retinas. Okay.
yeah.
That's a little bit 1984-ish for my taste.
It's upsetting. It's very there's so many problems. Like even and they
but you
did
know
this
they've
thing.
solved all of the ethical dilemmas.
Oh yeah, it's totally. I mean, it's
They consulted with Lincoln Park
consent.
PhD,
You
right?
consented.
So-
Yeah, Lincoln Park PhD. Well, there's actually a lot of I can't really recite with great accuracy all the shit that's going on surrounding this WorldCoin shit, but there's a lot of privacy concerns, as you might imagine. And I vaguely remember that there was an actual like not like a study, but some type of like research or case or something having to do with whether or not the WorldCoin, like this initiative, is like GDPR compliant, and it's like pretty soundly not GDPR compliant. But they actually say that, like they acknowledge that they are not. They say we like this. It's not compliant, but if you want, you could do it anyway, kind of thing. So it's like, but because it's like this decentralized, like I don't know what consequences are for Sam Altman. For it's this classic crypto problem, right? Where it's like, you can't legally gamble online in the US, but like crypto websites just put not for American customers, and then you just pretend you're not American and you gamble. Like, I don't know what the actual consequences are for breaking GDPR in this case. But yeah, it's fucked. And they said this thing where they're like, oh well, each image that's taken is by default deleted after your iris code is generated. And it's like, okay, that's not like as if to say this is somehow all right. Like, first of all, by default, it's couched. That's a couch. Like it's couched in that by default. Number one. Number two, the image is not the code. Like the code is generated from the biometric data. The image is just an image. Number two. Number three, that it's not a photograph that's generating the code. It's like laser. It's like, it's like Face ID on an iPhone. It's like it's like a 3D scan of your face with like an actual laser of some kind. It's not just a picture. Otherwise you could hold up a picture and it would work, right? So like that's the biometric data. It's not some fucking image. So it's like, is that being deleted? Is that being stored somewhere? Like, and then it's like, you have the option, you can opt in to backing up they back up your data, your retina data or whatever the fuck to some server of theirs. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So you are holding on to it. You are keeping it. Like, just because it's an opt-in doesn't make like it's fucked, man. There's a lot going on with this.
It's interesting because I mean, you know me, I'm a bit of a techno skeptic, I guess you could say. And I've been railing on about just sort of the overblown expectations of this sort of like this various generative AI, ChatGPT, Midjourney, what have you, right? And I was like, well, this is kind of coming off kind of scam, especially the idea that OpenAI is the company, right? Their valuation just like skyrocketed at some point and was like completely out of bounds from like I'm sorry, OpenAI should not be more valuable than like the big 3 automotive companies combined.
Yeah.
But at some point, like I'm pretty certain it was basically being valued at that. It's like, on what basis, right? I'm like, okay, this is starting more and more. This is reading scammy. I'm like, oh, Sam Altman is starting a cryptocurrency. Okay, it's a scam. It's all a fucking scam. You know, this leads me into an interesting thing. An article, I think I might have sent you this. Major websites like Amazon and the New York Times are increasingly blocking OpenAI's web crawler GPT bot. So they are basically, you know, reducing the capacity for and these are like, we're talking about lots of the biggest websites online are doing this, like Business Insider, Bloomberg, Airbnb, Nextdoor, New York Mag, The Atlantic, Axios, US Magazine, Lonely Planet. And for good reason. I mean, they're basically saying, you know, if we have the capacity, we pay to create content. This is our bread and butter. Why are we going to give it away for free to con artists? And so, you know, we've talked before about the erosion in the sort of value of these things over time, how we're actually seeing reductions in qualitative value on ChatGPT 4 because of sort of the increasing prevalence of AI generated stuff online getting fed back into the algorithm and kind of mucking up with the control of it. So now we're seeing that there are major barriers to perhaps the best data on the internet is going to be locked out of access for these generative AI, you know, scraping activities.
Crawlers.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what does this, you know, from, you know a lot more about the tech side of things than I do. Tell me what you think about it.
Tell me what you think. My main concern with this is good. First of all, let me say this is good. I like this. Rare Amazon W, like
for blocking the
crawler. Yeah.
Yes.
I like this. This is good. However, I'm a little bit worried that something that has been kind of a voluntary compliance mainstay of the bulk of the internet for decades could potentially, you know, just not be a thing anymore as a result of malicious actors creating these models. So let me give you a bit of backstory, okay? So I assume that the way that they're blocking these crawlers is with something called robots.txt. That was probably mentioned in the article at some point, right?
I'm pretty certain it was. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So robots.txt is, I don't remember when it started. It's pretty old now. But basically it was this kind of, I don't want to say movement, but kind of this standard that was, you know, proposed, where if you own a website, so let's say we have troyandaaron.com, right? Man, if we could get that domain, holy shit, I'd change the name of the podcast. But if we have troyandaaron.com, we can host a text file at, you know, the URL will be troyandaaron.com/robots.txt. And we format it in a certain way. And basically the function of this file is that if there's a web crawler that comes across our site and begins to kind of probe the site for all of the different all of the different resources on the site, we can tell that crawler where it should or should not look on our website for certain things. So like you shouldn't crawl anything that is, you know, at / I don't know, like pictures or some shit. I don't know. Like we could say in that file, we could say like, don't crawl this part of the website, or don't crawl the website at all. Or if you are a particular agent, like a particular, how would I explain that? You know, like a particular crawler could or could not be permitted to certain parts of the website. And you might think, well, why would Google listen to you? Like, why would, you know, these big companies with these crawlers, like, why wouldn't they just say, fuck you, we're not going to read that file, we'll just index your whole site because we want to? Well, it's actually in Google's best interest a lot of the time to follow these files, to obey them, because what the purpose of a web crawler is, it's to kind of, it's crawling through the whole of the internet that it can access and indexing these sites for the purposes of the search of Google search. And so
You're more likely to attach relevant information for search terms, which makes the product itself better. Like, say, the Google search product is better because it's indexed for things that are relevant rather than indexed for every time the words and of.
Yeah, exactly. If I say I want this part of my site to be indexed, I don't want this part of my site to be indexed. For the most part, it's going to be in Google's interest to listen to me and to say, we will do that. Because if somebody searches something and our index performs the way you want it to, they will get a better result. They'll get a better search result. Our product is better.
Our product is better, and you will be found.
Yes, exactly. So
it's good for both
there's this
actors.
weird kind of mutual kind of benefit for the people who operate the crawlers, companies that operate the crawlers, and the people who have their websites who are creating their robots.txt file to say, yes, do this, don't do this. And because of that, it's actually been it's been a thing. It's still a thing today, like where it's like, you make your robots.txt file to stop the crawlers or to tell them to not crawl certain parts of the site or whatever.
It's an SEO management thing. It's right.
Yeah, kind of. I'm probably butchering a lot of the tech explanations of it, but it's a mutually beneficial function of websites on the internet. But when I look at something like this, like, crawling for the purposes of training a large language model, it's voluntary compliance. Like, malware programs don't have to listen to your robots.txt file. Spam crawlers, somebody might write malware that specifically looks for URLs that you're telling them not to crawl through in your robots.txt file. So it's not a replacement for regular security, regular kind of limitations on your site, but it's meant to be just like that mutual benefit that I'm talking about with certain crawlers, right? But it can still be abused. So when I look at a situation like this, where people are creating large language models and there's no regulatory oversight on the training data sets that are being used for the models, you can't actually, I think it's harder to know whether or not those rules, those voluntary compliance rules, are even being followed by any particular company that produces their own model, because there's no obligation for that company to show you their data set. There's no obligation for them to prove that they've obeyed these rules, that they can say, here's the data set that we trained on. And there's obviously some technical challenges to that, right? Like if you're saying you train your training data set is the internet, then, well, you can't exactly just make a clone of the internet and say, here's what I trained on, right? So like, and sometimes depending on how you train your model, you're not, I think most of the time, I'm a little rusty on the tech side of it, but I think most of the time you're not actually preserving that data. You're just preserving the output from that input. So when you're training on input data, that input data is transient. It doesn't stick around. So you probably don't have that data. You haven't kept it. You've kind of consumed it and moved on. I think I might be wrong on that. Citation needed there, but I can accept that there are technical challenges to this, but it spooks me a little bit, because it's like we're starting to get into territory where it's like we have these mutual kind of understandings about how the internet works. I think Google proposed, there's this I forget the name of it. We'll put it up on the screen, but there's this internet, this, I don't want to say task force, but it's almost like this council. It's almost like, the IEEE, International. Oh God, I can't remember that one either. What's going on with my fucking brain right now? There's standards, right? There's standards for certain things, like
ISO 9001.
ISO, yeah, ISO, exactly, yeah. There's ISO standards. It's kind of like the same thing, but for the internet. And Google proposed this robot rejection robot rejection something. I can't remember what it's called, but they proposed a standard to be accepted by everybody that basically is this. It's this robots.txt thing with, I think it's got some evolution to it. It's got some more advanced parts to it, but they're proposing it as a standard, which makes sense because they, as a company who they function based on how well their search results are indexed. It makes sense that they would be incentivized to propose some kind of standard to kind of, set this in place. Like how is it going to work? Where we can mutually benefit, instead of just having this kind of grandfathered, like voluntary compliance type thing where it's like more informal, I think. Yeah, it spooks me a little bit. I don't have a lot of faith that the companies creating these models will follow the quote unquote rules, follow the kind of social expectations of them, especially fucking OpenAI.
I have another article up here where this guy, he's, I guess, a area expert himself. His name is Gary Marcus, and he says generative AI boom, quote unquote, could come to a fairly swift end. He's talking about these persistent issues that exist within the current technology, like hallucination, for example.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any clear answers to that. And basically, again, I might be butchering his conclusions, but his conclusions are basically, our belief that these are going to be world-changing technologies is extremely premature. And that the value, because we're talking about, architecture and engineering is going to be end as occupations in no time or something, which is like, okay, that's a lot of bridges with fucking. That's a lot of
10-foot
dead people.
sidewalks.
That's a lot of dead people we're talking about.
That's a lot
frankly.
of 10-foot sidewalks and skyscrapers with trees in the side.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's amazing to me that there's so little thought being put into the fact that these people, like, here's a person that's giving us a little bit of truth where it's like, hey, listen, this is just aggregated information that's just kind of like there's not really any human oversight all that much. Like, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but basically he's like, coding might be a lot of coding work is going to be expedited, right? That might be the case. Although we'll point out that even then, kind of like the AI imagery we were talking about before the cameras were turned on, there should be somebody who reviews the work afterwards to ensure that, it's actually not garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that that's not going to change anytime soon. So it's amazing to me. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think that a lot of this AI stuff is just extremely overblown, extremely misunderstood, and is actually demonstrating the bigger risk of it, which is the dumbing down of society and the increase in, we can just do this lazy thing and not actually have to do the work. And although I don't think that the jobs aren't going to get done properly, but that doesn't stop human agents from shifting the work over to them anyways, right? Yeah. And that's a serious problem.
Yeah.
So as you know, and as the viewer may or may not know, this week there was the first Republican debate, which did not feature Donald Trump.
No,
Donald Trump is
he was hanging out with the Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson. I was going to say that. Yes. Yeah. He had a interview with Tucker Carlson on his Tucker on X or whatever it's called, which looks X Tucker just sounds like some sort of pornographic website. I think
it's never not gonna when are we gonna realize that this is a terrible name change? Like, it's so bad. The brand recognition is just in the dumpster. Man.
Dumpstered, yeah. Yeah, Musk dumpstered it for sure. Yeah, so there was no Trump, but it was a very interesting debate. I was hoping it wasn't as bloody as I would have imagined, but there was a couple of good strikes. But obviously the big thing to talk about ought to be kind of Trump, because Trump is the presumptive nominee at this point. He's dominating the field. He's not there and refusing to be there. And he's under indictment. So you'd figure, you know what? Maybe we should talk about this guy. There might be something to talk about there. But, it was an hour until they really started talking about Trump. And they actually, like, Brett Baer was looking back at the crowd, being like, I'm sorry, we'll try to get through this section as quickly as we can so we don't have to diss your, beloved dear leader. Right? It was
Jesus.
Dystopian. It was ridiculous. But there's a couple of good points. The first person I want to talk about is Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
Ron DeSantis, this was a real make or break moment for him.
Florida man,
yes. The personification of
Florida man.
Florida man. And he didn't bomb. He
Okay.
didn't bomb, but he didn't really make a mark. He kind of started the debate being kind of defensive, and frankly, like I saw a lot of clips of him that was showing him like doing these weird grinding his teeth, like he would like snorted an Adderall before getting on stage or something. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with him. But, you know, he didn't really make a splash. There was this one really awkward moment that I do think will kind of, you know, come to haunt him from both sides. There was a point where they said, if Donald Trump is found guilty and is still is nominated, will you back his nomination? And a bunch of people, Ramaswamy was like, yep, will do, right? And then other people were like pretty quickly, you know, putting their hands up. And Ron DeSantis looked and he was hesitant. He was like, are we or are we not? Oh, okay, yeah, I guess we are, because that's what everyone else is saying, which is not exactly a leadership move. Definitely was a weak move. The only people who appeared to push back on that, Asa Hutchinson kept his hand down, and Chris Christie, who did not perform as well as I would have liked, but again, he got some good strikes, and that I'm going to talk about in a moment here. He kind of did this thing where he was going to put his hand up, but goes, nuh-uh, and it was like,
Okay.
it
Okay.
fucking dropped hard. But yeah, so on to next. So yeah, I really think that Ron DeSantis had to make a mark. He did not make a mark. And for a number of reasons that I'm going to go into, the people who did make a mark are going to butt him out of the field. I think his candidacy is just, this is just one more strike against his candidacy and his inevitable fall. The next thing I'll talk about is Pence. Pence defended himself pretty well and defended his decisions on January 6th to, you know, do his constitutional duty and laid out for the American people. He said, I want the American people to know that Donald Trump asked me to breach my constitutional oath and put him above the Constitution, and I would not do that. I thought that was pretty strong. I think in certain ways he also came off a little weak, a little weird.
Maybe it's Pence, right? Like,
Yeah, well, yeah. But he was, yeah. The guy that calls his wife mother. Anyways, yeah, I know, cringe. But there were certain points where he was like, hey, can I respond to that? To Brett Baer, and Brett Baer was like, okay, buddy, like, you'll get your chance. Like, he came off almost like a little petty in his attempts to defend, you know, but rightfully so. He was trying to defend himself against, because Ramaswamy was attacking him pretty hard. So he looked a little combative and not in like a strong sort of way. Chris Christie, like I said, didn't do as well as I would have liked, especially one of the reasons is because Trump wasn't there. And it was hard to, like, he should have given him what might be called the empty podium treatment and sort of like railed against Trump a little bit better. But he did a good job. He came out and he said, hey, Donald, like, he actually came out and said, Mike Pence, we should be, as Americans, we should be thanking him for what he did. And he did the right thing. And he said, we need to not normalize the behavior of Trump, which got boos from the crowd. Some applause, mostly boos, but it was some strong lines. And some of the lines that he did really well on with the crowd is he like interrupted Ramaswamy. He's like, okay, I'm sick of listening to this guy who sounds like Chat GPT coming in here, and everyone just starts, yeah, fuck Chat GPT. Right? It was a good line for a number of reasons. I really like that. He also, Ramaswamy made this statement where he said, hey, you see this skinny guy coming up, this young skinny guy with the funny last name, which was a line cribbed from Barack Obama's 2004 Democratic Convention speech. And so Christie immediately shot back. The last time he called him out for cribbing Obama's speeches, the last time I heard that was Obama, and obviously the Republicans. So they're like, and that didn't turn out so well, blah, 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 blah. Right. So real strong with the crowd. It's funnily enough, MTG, who is like the perennial racist.
No, not MTG. No.
Oh, yeah.
Fix
Sorry.
yourself.
Marjorie Glove Shitto
Thank you.
claimed that, oh, Christie, that sounded like a racist line. And I was like, no, he was pointing out that he literally cribbed the line from his speech. But it's like, remember, this is the lady who talks about Jewish space lasers. So
Yeah.
it's like, come on, like, give me a fucking break. But yeah, overall, he could have performed better. Tim Scott totally bombed and just looked weak. Okay, and there's this guy, I think Larry
Scott,
Ellison, spent like $60 million on this guy's pack, right, or something. It's just
Larry
totally,
Ellison. Is that? Oh no, I'm thinking Larry Page. Never mind.
Larry Ellison is, I think he is a tech guy. Isn't Larry Ellison Oracle? I might be wrong.
Could be, yeah, could be.
But you're thinking of the Google guy.
Yeah, I was thinking of Larry Page. Yeah,
Yeah. So a lot of money was dumped on Tim Scott because he was like he's a well-liked guy. He's a senator. Everybody in the Senate likes him, but he's just couldn't perform. He couldn't perform. Asa Hutchinson, who was one of the few never Trumpers on the stage, governor of Arkansas, didn't really make a mark. Whatever. That's enough on him. Burgum spoke. No one really had heard of Burgum before. He's the North Dakota governor, and he was like, "Well, I'm from a small town, so I'll blah blah blah. Oh, He said small town about 50 times. Just kept repeating that. But guess what? That actually isn't, not only on the Republican side of things, but in the Iowa caucuses, that's not a bad thing to be talking about. That might actually net him some. He's probably going to see a bit of a polling boost, but he's not going anywhere. His candidacy is a fucking joke. Ramaswamy, this is where it gets interesting. So Ramaswamy is pretty effective, got a lot of big applause lines, and he's touching all the, mega. He's got the mega recipe down pat. And, Trump is still in the race, but if Trump does get knocked out of the race, Ramaswamy is definitely going to consolidate the right flank of the race, I think. He forwarded a really isolationist approach to foreign policy, and he also basically an arsonistic domestic policy, talking about going to get rid of the Department of Education, going to get rid of the Department of Energy, going to basically fire everybody at the IRS. This is how we're going to fix America. He reminded me of this guy who's running for president in Argentina. He's like this anarcho-capitalist guy who's like got this funny hair. I'll pop an image of him. He's a fucking lunatic, but he might become the next president of Argentina, which should be interesting because then we'll have a real world example. Oh, this is what happens when an ANCAP is fucking in charge of your country. Like, not that I'm looking forward to more suffering for the already suffering Argentinian people. Back to Ramaswamy. Ramaswamy claimed that Trump was the best president of the 21st century. And that got big applause from the crowd. And
sheesh, all right.
But he got a lot of pushback from everybody. Everybody had their sights on Ramaswamy that night, which was good for DeSantis, but bad for DeSantis in a way. Because, it kind of demonstrates Ramaswamy is the guy on the come up that everybody else is, which kind of gives a little bit more power to Ramaswamy. He says, hey, look, everybody on the stage is attacking me. Why? Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's hitting all these notes that are really big with the, the right populist crowd. Nikki Haley, I think she came out on top by far in the whole thing. And I think that we're going to see a consolidation in the field behind her. She had some of the biggest places beside the ChatGPT statement by Christie. The biggest place where Ramaswamy got damaged by anybody was by her. She came out and she said, you don't know anything about foreign policy. Your foreign policy is crap. I can't remember exactly. She said, you're inexperienced and it shows. And remember, she brought up Ukraine because he's the Neville Chamberlain of foreign policy, right? He's like, oh, we'll give Ukraine to Russia, we'll give Taiwan to China, and somehow that's how we'll fight against China, right? It doesn't make any fucking sense, but it really, among the mouth breathing fucking moron cohort in the Republican Party, that that gets applause. That's an applause line, right?
Jesus.
But she had the crowd applauding so hard that like after her line that like he was trying to respond and rebut, and they were just drowning him out. It was beautiful, right? But she didn't just attack Ramaswamy. She attacked Tim Scott, Mike Pence, and Ron DeSantis, who were all either former or current Congress members, for being part of the reason spending was so high. She said Trump was responsible for a massive increase in spending, which is true. He put like $8 trillion onto the debt, right? And said, these Republicans are just as bad at the debt stuff. I don't like a lot of the talk that the Republicans do about the debt stuff because basically she's talking about cutting all these social programs.
Yeah.
But politically speaking, very powerful argument, and also demonstrated she's willing to strike at other people aggressively, including Trump, on things that are pretty like again, those got applauded by the crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her attacking both other Republicans on the stage with her, and to a degree Trump, both implicitly and explicitly. She also made a electability argument against Trump. She said, listen, Trump is the most unpopular politician in America, and we got to understand this and be realistic. So she was giving some hard truths to the Republicans that the Republicans need, which I respect. She also said, because abortion's a huge issue, and she said, listen, she, because she's like, got the pro-life, she's on that sort of end of the spectrum, like basically anyone else who wants a future in Republican politics. But she said, we need 60 people in the Senate. We're never going to get that. Let's be like, in order to get a national abortion ban, right? So let's get realistic and see that that's not going to happen, right? Which that's a hard pill to swallow for the right. And yeah, so one thing that was really interesting is she kind of stood on a line between saying, I've got experience. She was the governor of South Carolina, right? So I've got executive experience. I've got experience in government. She was the UN ambassador, so she's got foreign policy experience, and she's got her, national securities bona fides, right? But at the same time, was also able to rail at the Washington political establishment as an outsider because she's never held national political office, right? So she could point to Ron DeSantis and Tim Scott and Mike Pence and all these other guys as being part of the swamp, right? So she really, really kind of straddled a line. I really think that she's going to consolidate the establishment wing. I think that if Trump remains in the race in the long term, that she will be the person that goes, she will be the other option, right? If he drops out, then it'll be between her and Ramaswamy. That's how I see things kind of working out. So I had very early on said she would make a good VP pick for anybody. I think that she would make the best pick for a number of reasons for the Republicans for the presidential, for the top of the ticket. I think Haley, the top of the ticket, she could beat Biden. She could beat Biden.
Sheesh.
She is a force to be reckoned with. So if there's one thing for the audience to take from my view of that debate is Nikki Haley, that's the area to be watching. Okay. She's the one to watch. So you got any thoughts on the matter? Or I know you didn't see the debate,
man.
But how do you feel about any of the things that I said?
I'm not too surprised that Christie kind of fucking bombed because like his whole shtick, no, I don't want to say shtick, but like his whole half of the whole reason he's there is to be the guy who shits on Trump, right? So it's like Trump's not there. It's like
you're gonna shit on an empty podium, right? Yeah.
Furiously fluttering through index cards trying to find non-Trump related shit to say.
Yeah, he definitely could have done a lot better, and but we'll see what Trump does. I mean, we were talking about the Trump. Trump's going to be in the media a lot, and not in a good way. People have been saying, "Oh, his indictments have benefited him politically." We'll see how it benefits him as these trials go forward.
Televised trials.
Televised trials impact swing states the most and impact independent voters the most, who are not. It benefits him among the Republican base when he gets indicted. It benefits him among, the ruby red conservatives and the MAGA base. Doesn't benefit him among independents. So if he is the nominee, he's radioactive, man. He's frankly, he's toast. I do not think he has any chance in a general. I don't care what anybody has to say. And I don't think it's very likely, everyone's saying he's a presumptive nominee. I could be wrong. I don't think so. I think he's fucking toast. So, but you know what? Let's get off the whole politics thing, because I know that that's not really necessarily the audience's biggest thing. That's mostly something I like to shoehorn in for my own benefit.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't really forgive ourselves. We didn't mention the
debate.
Debate, for sure.
The debate and the indictments. Both of those things were huge this week. So, we had to touch them somewhat, but I'll make sure to creatively edit it in a way so that it's popping. It's going to be popping in post. Don't worry. Let's think of another thing to talk about here.
Well, I got something kind of chill we can end on here.
You don't want to talk about three-eyed fish?
I love me some three-eyed fish. Let's go. Yeah, so I got some kind of little cash kind of ending topic. Starfield's coming out soon. Destiny Bethesda RPG. We talked about Fallout a little bit. So Pete Hines, he's the Xbox head, and he did an interview at Gamescom. I think he did a couple interviews at Gamescom, but he was talking a lot about. He actually, you know what? I rare corporation CEO type person but he actually made some really compelling kind of statements about how they screwed up. You remember did I talk to you about Redfall? The video game Redfall came out by Arcane Studios. This is a while back now, but Arcane Studios, they made Prey, they made Fear, they made a lot of like really successful single player kind of immersive sim RPG type games.
Okay.
And they released this game called Redfall, and it was just a flop. Like it really did not meet anyone's expectations of what an Arcane game should look like, for a lot of different reasons. But Pete Hines, when that happened, he came out and he was making a lot of like statements about like, we failed Arcane. Like Xbox didn't support them. This is because of us. This is not because of Arcane. Here's all the things we didn't do that we should have done. But he didn't go super into detail. Like he kind of just made some very vague, like, yeah, we didn't support them. It didn't meet expectations, blah, 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 right? But at Gamescom, he said some stuff that he went into a bit more detail, and I'm kind of starting to like this guy, like in terms of, like, obviously he could just be fucking risen me, and I just don't know it, like whatever. But some of the statements he made about like, like expectations of first party exclusive games, because this Redfall was Arcane's first Xbox exclusive, Xbox PC, but like Microsoft exclusive title. He's talking about how there's different expectations on studios that make first party exclusives, and like when you bring a studio into the fold, you need to like support them in very specific ways that you wouldn't need to do for a studio that's not making a first party exclusive, and all this kind of stuff. And I liked what he was saying. He made some interesting comments along those lines. But more interestingly, this is the thing I wanted to share with you. A little interesting thing about Starfield. This is a headline from PC Gamer. They say, Pete Hines can't even put a number on how long Starfield takes to complete. I'm at 150 to 160 hours on my current playthrough, and I haven't even come close. So I'm curious to know what you think about that. What do you think about somebody telling you this game takes over 160 hours to complete? Is that a game that you're likely to...
Well, it depends on the nature of the game. I mean, is it an open world?
It's an open world RPG, very much think Fallout in space, Skyrim in space.
I mean, I'm the kind of guy, I'm like, when it comes to those big open world things, the more content, the better. That's how I see it, because you can just get lost in those games. A lot of people aren't big fans of that sort of stuff, but I mean, obviously a lot more are, because of, they've sold Skyrim about 1,500 times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't, that doesn't hold me back from exploring that game, because I don't know that an open world game, you don't need to even consume you don't need to run through everything that you can do in one playthrough of the game, right? And it's often those kind of games are the kind of games where you can put down for 6 months a year and then reapproach and have a completely different type of playthrough, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean that doesn't bother me. That's quite intriguing, if anything.
I would tend to agree. I would tend to say that, in this type of game, more content is more good. Like, I would tend to agree. I am a little bit, it almost kind of harkens back to the Baldur's Gate 3 conversation we had. Now, I don't think Starfield is going to perform as well as Baldur's Gate 3 has. I'm hesitant to I mean, Bethesda doesn't have the best track record with new launch titles. Also, Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't really a launch. Like, it was in early access for like 3 fucking years. But anyway,
it was jank as shit in early access until like
yeah.
the release. Like I was playing it. I didn't know it was in early access that long. I was playing it like a week before at a buddy's place in early access, and it was janked out. So I mean,
but anyway, that aside, I don't think it's probably not gonna do as well as BG3, but it's interesting that like it's becoming, I don't want to say a standard, but it is becoming the norm for games buy our game, you're going to get hundreds of hours out of it, like at minimum, like there's some games where you get it and it's like the average person gets, 100 hours, 200 hours maybe, but you happen to get, it's like you in RimWorld, right? Like how many thousands of hours do you have out of that game? Like hundreds of hours, whatever. No comment. Yeah. Or me in Factorio or fucking whatever. Right. But it's interesting that it's becoming kind of a trend to be like, come buy our game. It has hundreds of hours of content. Like, fuck. Like, and it's like, I question the quality of that quantity of content, you know? It's like, how much, like, first of all, respect to Pete Hines, but for all I know, he could be, you know, some boomer gamer who like gets stuck on one dungeon for 20 hours.
He's a
right?
fucking
Like,
games journalist level of fucking
yeah,
gamer.
Cuphead tutorial type shit. Yeah, for all I know, right? So that's one confounding variable there. But even if it's not, even if he is a relatively average, competent gamer, and he's putting this much time into it, and it's like, this is as far as he's gotten, it's like, is it going to be enough to hold the average person's attention for that? Like, he's incentivized to. There's all these different things. We have to take it with a grain of salt, right? But yeah, I just think it's interesting to think about, you know, the games that are coming out from AAA studios. It's like, yeah, we've got hundreds of hours of content, and it's like, no, if you're not a AAA studio, you just can't compete with that. If that's a vector that you're measuring on, you just can't do it. It's just.
Or you just get generative AI to procedurally generate
Yeah.
story, and you just
Oh,
have
man.
thousands of hours.
That's what I was going to tell you. Oh, I totally forgot. You know what? I'm not going to name the game. People can find it if they want to. If they look hard enough, they can find it. But I played a game recently. It was on PlayStation Plus. I didn't have to buy it. And one of the things that they say in the description of the game is it's it's a roguelike type game, and every run is different. We use procedural generation to create the enemies, and they're animated with a neural network. We use a neural network training model to animate them.
So we're talking about like Seinfeld ChatGPT, or remember the fucking Seinfeld thing?
Yeah,
That's what I'm imagining, the graphical level.
It's like, and it's very clearly it's meant to be like, we're proud of this. Like, we use this crazy technology to animate. It's so bad. It's so bad.
You don't gotta tell me it's bad. I know
played
it's
it
bad.
I played it for maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and it was just like so.
Can you imagine being proud that that's like a point of pride? Like, that's a brag.
I do feel bad ragging on any fellow developer of any
that.
product, but because it's like you may have really wanted to take advantage of this technology and make something cool, and just didn't work out. But it's like, now you kind of have to, you kind of have to make that your tagline. Otherwise, it's like, what was the fucking point, But it's just
a marketplace of ideas.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's like I get the vibe that they're going for. It's a very kind of, what's the Cthulhu guy? The
H.P.
guy.
Lovecraft.
It's a very Lovecraftian vibe. There's a lot of random like tentacles and eyeballs and random shit on all the enemies. But what it ends up devolving to is just these masses of the writhing flesh that just kind of jank around. They just flip around like fucking. Remember those old Flash games where it's like the legs would just kind of like bounce off stuff, and they just like flip. It's like quap. Like every one of the enemies looks like it's fucking quapping its way through the level. Yeah. It's just like, God, it was so awful, and I was so open-minded to be like, I'll give it a chance, I'll give it a shot, and it's fucking dreadful. You cannot. There's a reason that animators train, like, they spend hundreds of hours on their craft to get good looking animations. It's not just about an animation looking cool or looking stylistically matching the context, or you also have to think about the game design aspects of it. Like, does this animation convey information to the player? Are they learning something by seeing this particular animation? Is it clear? Is it believable? If I as a player would imagine what's going to happen, does this match what I'm expecting? There's all these different reasons that animators spend thousands of hours on their craft, and it's like the neural network model misses all of it. It turns every one of these enemies into just some fucking jank quap ass bullshit just rolling through a level on its fucking procedurally generated limbs. It's just so trash. I don't know when the enemy's dead, because it's just when it's dead and it's ragdolling, it looks the same as when it's alive and ragdolling towards me. Like, I can't tell the difference. It's like, yeah, it depressed me, man. It depressed me. It was so It was so unforgivably dog shit.
You know what's interesting? It depresses you. It actually it fills me with hope. I mean, again, as this techno skeptic, right? It just demonstrates the hubris and the unthinking. This is a stupidity, okay? Just the stupidity of people who think that we can just replace human creativity and talent for, oh, we've got this neat little fucking parlor trick of a fucking AI, generative AI. That's just going to make everybody redundant. It really just produces crap, useless crap. And it's good to see when projects, I feel like projects like that kind of need to flop, kind of need to blow up so that we can see, oh, hey, look, that's the wrong track. Like, that's part of the process. Like I said about marketplace of ideas, right? Like, the marketplace will tell them, guess what, guys? That's not how you build a video game. Guess what, guys? Animators have a purpose. Human oversight has a purpose. Human writers have a purpose.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just tell, oh, a computer will make this for us. And it's better that we can see that obviously now, because there's a lot of things where people don't see it, even though it's pretty clear to me. Like, they'll show me, like, you know, like I shown you those videos where they're like, watch out, Hollywood, they're coming for you. And it's like these videos of like this completely, like, to me, it's just like uncanny valley fucking horse shit. And like people whose hands are going through glasses and shit.
This MC Escher fucking weird surrealist.
And there's no content to it either, which you pointed out. But a lot of people don't see just how hollow it is. So when there are examples that are so obviously hollow, it kind of, even for the lowest common denominator, the people least critically viewing this stuff, they go, oh, this is fucking garbage. Right? So that we're predisposed to being critical and thinking critically about this generatively produced stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The sludge, right? Because, you know, like I've said probably about 100 times this episode, and I'll say 100 times more, the biggest risk of AI isn't, you know, it getting access to the nuclear launch codes and imposing fucking totalitarian fucking AI rule on us all, and we're going to be hooked up to batteries for the Matrix and all that shit, right? It's going to be us becoming progressively stupider as a society because of the refeeding of this stuff. Oh, this is content. Oh, this is what thought is. This is what art is. This is what, and it's like, no, this is not what it is.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, like, I'm worried about the erosion of our critical capacities, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what AI, the biggest risk posed by AI is its erosion of our critical capacities.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's fucking depressing.
Well, no, but I mean, like I said, though, it fucking, I mean, do you think you're the only guy that played the game and said, this is fucking horseshit? Or do you think?
Almost certainly not.
Right. So
I don't think I would be shocked if anybody made it much farther than I
even
than
Sam
I did.
Altman could have fucking purchased the fucking game World Coin and still played it and went, okay, you know, this is jank as shit. You know.
Yeah. God, it's I will show you. I'll show you a video. Maybe if I'm ambitious, I'll send you a GIF to put up on the screen right now. But it is.
I will find one.
It's embarrassingly ugly as fuck. It's horrible. It's so bad. So anyway, L to whoever made that game. Big L there.
And big L to Sam Altman.
Yes, Sam Altman.
Sam Altman.
God, that was forced. Well, I think that's probably a good place for us to call it. I think, God, what a shit show of a day it's been, but we pulled it off eventually. Thank you so much for sticking around with us and checking this out. Leave us a like, leave us a subscribe if this is the kind of content you're interested in. Leave us a comment. If you have any questions, critiques, or citations that we desperately needed, please leave them in the comments below, and we will see you in the next one. Welcome to the fucking podcast.